The forest was too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you feel like you're not alone. Emma's wheelchair left deep tracks in the damp soil as Daniel pushed her deeper into the woods. Trees loomed above like silent witnesses, their bare branches clawing at the darkening sky. The wind rustled the leaves with a sound that reminded her of whispers. She glanced back at the empty trail behind them, then up at her husband's face. His expression was blank. Where are we going?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Daniel didn't answer at first. Just kept pushing. Then, finally, he said, flatly, "Somewhere you won't be a burden anymore." Emma's breath caught in her throat. She let out a nervous laugh, hoping it was a joke. "Okay, that's not funny." He stopped the chair. Turned to face her. And in that moment, with the dying light of the sky painting shadows across his face, she knew he wasn't joking. "You'll have your phone. Maybe someone will find you," he said, pulling her tote bag from the car and setting it beside her. "Or maybe not. Either way. I'm done." "No, Daniel. Daniel, please," she cried, reaching for him. He stepped back. His eyes were cold. "You think I signed up for this? A wife I have to feed, lift, clean up after? A life of hospitals, pills, diapers? This isn't a marriage, Emma. This is a prison." Emma felt the cold creep up her legs, though she couldn't feel them anymore. "Don't do this," she whispered. "Please, don't leave me out here." Daniel didn't respond. He turned, walked back to the car, and drove away, his taillights disappearing between the trees, swallowed by darkness. She sat there, completely still, her chest heaving, her heartbeat pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. Then, somewhere, hidden in the trees, something moved. A pair of eyes watched from the shadows. Not animal. Not threat. But witness. Before we jump in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. 2 days earlier, everything had seemed almost normal. Emma sat by the sunroom window, sipping lukewarm coffee from a mug she could barely hold without trembling. Outside, the early spring sunlight danced on the garden Daniel had once promised they'd plant together. Now, it was overgrown. Forgotten. Like so many other things. The sound of her wheelchair creaking across the hardwood echoed in the empty house. Every movement was deliberate, getting from one end of the room to another was no longer instinct. It was calculation. Balance. Bracing herself on whatever surface she could find. 3 years ago, Emma had been unstoppable. She ran her own interior design firm in Boston, signed 6-figure contracts, traveled for client installations, gave talks on creative entrepreneurship. Her social media had been a carefully curated gallery of mid-century modern furniture, golden retrievers, and kisses with her dream husband Daniel. They were that couple, picture-perfect, home renovating, yoga on the weekends kind of people. Then came the accident. A storm, a curve in the road, and a truck that never saw her. She'd survived. But her legs hadn't. Paralysis from the waist down. Endless surgeries. Bills. Rehabs. Wheelchairs. Redefined dreams. Daniel had been there in the beginning, so supportive in public it bordered on sainthood. "We're in this together," he'd say at dinner parties, holding her hand like a devoted spouse. But behind closed doors, the cracks had started to show. "You don't understand how exhausting this is," he muttered one night, pouring whiskey with trembling hands. "I didn't sign up for this kind of life, Emma." He said it when he thought she was asleep. That's when the paperwork started. First it was small, transferring her business decisions to him just until she could manage things again. Then came the gentle but insistent nudging to focus on recovery, while Vanessa, his assistant, began showing up more often, slipping in through the side gate when Emma had therapy appointments. Emma noticed everything. She always had. The way Daniel's voice changed when Vanessa called. The scent of unfamiliar perfume on his coat. The silences that grew longer. The smiles that never quite reached his eyes anymore. But she stayed quiet, hoping he would come back to her. To the woman he once said he couldn't live without. Now, staring at her reflection in the glass, Emma wondered how long she'd been lying to herself. The message came just after dusk. Daniel had left early that morning, saying he had meetings in the city. Emma hadn't asked questions. She'd learned to stop asking. Around 6:17 p.m., her phone buzzed. A text from him. "Dress warm tonight. I have a surprise. I'll pick you up at 7. Emma stared at the screen, blinking. A surprise? Her heart did something it hadn't done in months, it fluttered. Could this be a turning point? Maybe he remembered something. Their anniversary was still a month away, but maybe he was trying again. Maybe there was still something left between them worth saving. She wheeled herself to the closet. The choices were limited. She hadn't gone out in anything beyond therapy gear or sweats in weeks, but she picked the coat she used to wear on their winter trips to Vermont. Pale blue, with faux fur at the collar. The one Daniel always said made her look like a snow queen. By the time headlights swept across the driveway, Emma had wheeled herself outside. Daniel didn't get out to help. He just popped the trunk and waited. She noticed a duffel bag in the back seat, along with a thermos and a wool blanket. They drove in silence, the city fading behind them as asphalt turned to gravel. Emma glanced at him every few minutes. He didn't look at her. Just kept his eyes on the road, jaw tight. After almost an hour, the car veered off the main highway onto a side road Emma didn't recognize. Trees pressed in from both sides, thick and skeletal. "Are we going camping?" she asked, trying to make her voice light. Daniel didn't answer. Her smile faltered. The road narrowed to a trail. And finally, the car stopped in a small clearing surrounded by forest. No lights. No cabins. Just trees and silence. Daniel stepped out, walked around, and opened her door. She looked at him, confused. "This is it?" He nodded once, then pulled the wheelchair from the trunk, unfolding it and setting it beside her. Emma hesitated. "What are we doing here, Daniel?" He didn't answer. He lifted her from the seat and into the chair, then placed her tote bag on her lap. Only then did he speak. "You've always been strong, Emma. You'll figure it out." "What?" She blinked, the chill of the evening air catching in her lungs. "I can't do this anymore," he said quietly. "You were supposed to get better. We were supposed to have a life. Not this." Her voice cracked. "You're leaving me here?" He nodded. "You have your phone. Maybe someone will come." "And if they don't?" she whispered. He looked away. "That's not my problem anymore." She reached out, grabbing his arm, but he shook her off and stepped back. In the stillness of the woods, the engine roared to life. His headlights swung across the trees, then vanished, leaving her in darkness. Emma sat frozen, hands gripping the armrests of her chair so tightly her knuckles ached. Alone. Except, she wasn't. Unseen, just beyond the clearing, a pair of eyes had been watching. And they'd seen everything. The cold settled in quickly after the engine sounds disappeared. Emma sat still for several minutes, too stunned to cry, too afraid to move. The trees around her seemed to press in tighter, their shadows stretching long and jagged beneath the dying light. Her phone was in her lap, but when she tapped the screen, the worst appeared. No service. She blinked hard, trying to focus, trying to breathe through the rising panic. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. Her hand trembled as she reached into the tote bag Daniel had placed on her lap. A bottle of water. A protein bar. Her pill organizer. A half-charged power bank. That was it. He had packed her a survival kit, as if she were a stray pet being released into the wild. She laughed once. A sharp, bitter sound that bounced off the trees. Then she cried. It started slow, barely a whimper, then grew louder, rawer, until the sound filled the clearing. A sound not just of fear, but of betrayal. Of something inside her finally breaking. Somewhere far off, an owl hooted. Emma wiped her face, forced herself to think. She needed to find higher ground. Maybe if she could will toward a clearing or a hill, she'd get a signal. Maybe she could flag a car. Or, just find a place to survive the night. But even on a flat sidewalk, moving her chair alone was a challenge. Here, in the woods, on dirt and rocks and tree roots, it was nearly impossible. Still, she tried. Her arms strained as she gripped the wheels, pushing forward an inch at a time. Her coat snagged on low branches. Her tires caught on the uneven earth. She moved 5 feet. Then 10. Then hit a root she couldn't roll over. She cursed out loud. Backed up. Tried another angle. And then the wheel sank into a patch of soft earth and jammed. She rocked the chair, trying to free it. Nothing. Frustrated, exhausted, she let her arms fall to her sides. And that's when she heard it. A sound, barely a whisper, of something moving in the trees. She held her breath. It wasn't an animal. It was too slow. Too deliberate. Her heart pounded as she turned in the chair, eyes scanning the shadows. "Hello?" she called, voice shaking. "Is someone there?" Silence. She tried again. "Please. I need help." Another sound, closer now. Twigs cracking beneath boots. Her breath caught. Then, from between 2 tall pines, a figure stepped out. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Dressed in dark clothes. Not Daniel. For one terrifying moment, she thought it might be another threat. But then the figure spoke. "Emma?" She froze. That voice. She hadn't heard it in over a decade, but she'd know it anywhere. "Adrian," she whispered. He stepped into the moonlight. Older now. Rugged. A light scar above one eyebrow. The same steady gaze. "It's me," he said softly. "I've got you." Emma couldn't believe her eyes. For a moment, everything blurred, her fear, her shock, the cold air biting at her cheeks. She blinked once, then again, just to make sure he was real. Adrian Foster. The man she had once loved fiercely and left behind just as fiercely. The man who had always felt like fire, too bright, too wild, too much for the carefully ordered life she thought she needed. And now, here he was, walking toward her through the trees like a ghost from another lifetime. She could barely form the words. "What, how, why are you here?" Adrian crouched beside her wheelchair, eyes searching hers. His voice was quiet, but steady. "I came back to Boston a few weeks ago. I looked you up. You'd disappeared. No social media, no new business listings, not even a paper trail. That didn't feel like the Emma I knew." His jaw tightened. "So I started watching. I saw him, Daniel. The way he acted. I didn't trust it." Emma looked away, her voice flat. "Well, congratulations. You were right. I saw him push you out of the car," Adrian said, anger rippling just under the surface. "I saw him leave you here. I was going to stop him, but I needed to make sure you were safe first." Emma gave a shaky laugh. "Safe? In the middle of nowhere, in a broken wheelchair, with no phone signal. I haven't felt safe in years." Adrian didn't argue. He stood and pulled a blanket from the satchel slung over his shoulder, wrapping it gently around her shoulders. Then, without a word, he reached down and scooped her into his arms. "What are you doing?" she asked, startled. "Getting you out of here," he said. "But the chair." "I'll come back for it," he interrupted. "Right now, I just want you warm. Alive. Somewhere with a roof." She didn't resist. As he carried her through the trees, her head resting lightly against his chest, Emma felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time, relief. Not because someone had rescued her, but because someone had seen her. They reached a gravel road, and just ahead, hidden by the trees, was a modest black pickup truck. Adrian opened the passenger door, eased her into the seat, and adjusted the blanket over her lap. He turned the heat on full blast. Emma stared ahead, still dazed. Daniel's probably halfway back to the city by now. He's going to lie, Adrian. He'll say I wandered off. Got confused. That it wasn't what it looked like. Adrian turned the ignition, his jaw tight. Then we'll make sure he doesn't get the chance. He glanced at her. You up for a little payback? Emma's lips curved, not quite a smile, but something close. Oh, I'm beyond ready. As the truck rumbled down the road, Emma gripped the blanket tight. The woman who had been abandoned was gone. The woman moving forward? She was just getting started. Adrian's cabin sat tucked between two ridges at the edge of the forest, about 20 miles from where he'd found her. It wasn't big or fancy, but it was warm, wood-paneled walls, a crackling fireplace, and the scent of pine and old leather. As soon as he carried Emma inside, she felt her body unclench for the first time in hours. The stillness here wasn't menacing like in the woods. It was quiet in the way a sanctuary should be. Adrian laid her gently on a worn but firm sofa near the fire and pulled off his jacket, tossing it over the armrest. He disappeared into the kitchen for a moment, then returned with a mug of warm tea. She took it with shaking hands. Do you live here? He nodded. Bought it after I got discharged. Needed space. Quiet. She sipped the tea, staring into the fire. You could have gone anywhere. Why come back to Boston? Adrian sat down across from her. Because some things don't leave you, no matter how far you go. She looked up at him, uncertain. You mean me? I mean the way I felt when I heard about your accident, he said, voice low. You vanished after that. No one could find you. Not even your business website was active. And Daniel, something about him never sat right with me. So yeah, I came back. At first, just to see if you were okay. But when I started watching him, I realized you weren't. Emma set the mug down. He took everything, she said quietly. The business, the house, the money. He said it was temporary, just to manage things while I recovered. But I wasn't recovering fast enough for his taste. Adrian's jaw flexed. He's planning a new life with her, Emma added, bitterness sharp on her tongue. Vanessa. His assistant. I found tickets to Costa Rica in his drawer. He even listed my company under his name for sale last week. Adrian stood, walked to the bookshelf, and pulled out a black box. Inside were a dash cam memory card, a pair of binoculars, and several sheets of printed documents. I didn't just follow you, he said. I recorded everything. The way he spoke to you in the car. Him pushing you out. Leaving you there. It's all time-stamped. I've already got it backed up in 3 places. Emma's eyes widened. You're serious? I'm always serious. She stared at him, then let out a slow breath. Okay. Then here's what we're going to do. She rolled closer to the table, grabbed the notepad beside the couch, and began sketching a plan. Every word, every line, clear. Precise. Emma Richardson, the designer, was back. Only this time, she wasn't designing luxury homes. She was designing Daniel's downfall. First step, report everything to the police, with Adrian's footage and her own testimony. Second step, send an anonymous tip to a journalist Emma used to work with, someone who'd once begged her for an exclusive story. This time, Emma would give her something better than a glamorous interior. She'd give her a survival story. Third, file a civil suit for fraud, abuse, and unlawful transfer of property, using the documents Daniel had so smugly signed in his name. Adrian leaned over her shoulder as she wrote. You really haven't changed, he murmured. She looked up at him. I have. I'm just done being small. He nodded. Then let's make some noise. And with that, they began. Emma's hands were still weak. Her legs still motionless. But her mind was sharper than ever. She wasn't just going to survive what Daniel did to her. She was going to make sure he never did it to anyone again. 2 weeks later, the world finally knew her name again. The article dropped at 7 a.m. sharp. It wasn't just a headline, it was a firestorm. Interior design mogul left to die, husband abandons disabled wife in remote woods. Underneath the bold print was a photo of Emma from her pre-accident days, radiant, powerful, confident, and another, more recent, taken just days earlier, Emma in a wheelchair, wrapped in a wool blanket, staring defiantly into the camera. The story spread like wildfire. Major outlets picked it up within hours. The public was horrified. Influencers reposted it. Advocacy groups demanded accountability. Daniel's name trended for all the wrong reasons. Emma watched it all unfold from Adrian's cabin, her phone buzzing non-stop. Text messages. Missed calls. Emails from reporters, podcasts, producers, even a documentary crew. But she ignored them all, except one. Detective Herrera from the Boston Police Department. They had seen Adrian's footage. Combined with Emma's medical records and financial documentation, it was enough to open a criminal investigation. That same afternoon, officers arrived at Daniel's condo. He answered the door wearing a robe and holding a green smoothie. The arrest was swift, and caught on video. Daniel didn't go quietly. He shouted about lies, manipulation, how Emma was mentally unstable and trying to ruin him. But no one believed him now. Especially not when the footage aired on national TV, him pushing Emma into the clearing, saying she was a burden, then driving away. The court of public opinion needed no more convincing. And neither did the DA. Charges: reckless endangerment, fraud, emotional abuse, and financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. As Daniel was led away in handcuffs, Vanessa slipped out the back door with packed suitcases. By the next morning, her social media accounts had vanished. Emma didn't smile when she saw the footage. She didn't cheer. She simply nodded. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about truth. She met with the detective that afternoon to finalize her statement. When asked if she wanted a restraining order, she said yes. When asked if she wanted to press full charges, she said, absolutely. The next day, her civil suit was filed, and leaked. That night, Emma went live for the first time in years. Sitting in Adrian's cabin, wrapped in her favorite sweater, she faced the camera. I was left in the woods by someone who said he loved me, she began. But this story isn't just about abandonment. It's about resilience. About not letting the worst thing that happened to you define you. She paused, voice steady. I want every woman out there, every person, who's ever been discarded, ignored, or made to feel small to know, you are not weak. You are not done. You are not invisible. The video hit 1 million views by morning. Emma Richardson was back. Not just as a survivor. But as a voice. A force. A storm. 1 year later, Emma stood at the entrance of her new office. It wasn't a high-rise or a fancy penthouse. It was a restored brick building in a quiet Boston neighborhood, once a textile mill, now home to something much more powerful. The Second Sunrise Foundation. Its mission, to provide legal, emotional, and financial support to women who had been abandoned, exploited, or silenced. Inside, the walls were lined with artwork donated by survivors. The conference room was named after her mother. The entry hall had a mural of a rising sun, painted by a teenage girl who had once lived in her car after being cast out by her family. And at the center of it all, was Emma. Not the version of herself that used to chase perfection and designer accolades. Not the Emma who thought love meant sacrificing yourself quietly. But the Emma who had clawed her way out of the woods, literally, and chose to become the light someone else might need. Adrian was there, too. Not as a romantic promise, not yet, and maybe not ever. He worked 2 doors down, running veteran reintegration programs with quiet purpose. Sometimes he brought her coffee. Sometimes they had lunch in the courtyard without saying a word. But he was there. Stable. Present. Kind. And sometimes, that was more powerful than love. That spring, the court officially granted Emma full restitution. The business Daniel had stolen was returned to her name. His assets were frozen, his sentence confirmed. Public opinion had long since turned. He had become a cautionary tale. But Emma never spoke of him again. She didn't need to. She had learned that healing didn't come from revenge, it came from rebuilding something greater than what was taken. On the anniversary of the night Daniel left her in the woods, Emma stood on a stage at the city's Women's Leadership Gala. She wore a deep green gown that matched her eyes, her chair positioned under a soft gold spotlight. She took a deep breath. "I used to think strength looked like independence," she began. "Like having it all together, never asking for help, never letting anyone see you break." She paused. But strength, real strength, is softer than that. It's crying in the woods when no one's there, and still choosing to live. It's reaching out. It's saying, "I need you." It's surviving the moment someone decides you're no longer worthy, and realizing they were wrong. Her voice caught. Not from weakness, but from truth. "My name is Emma Richardson. I was left to die. But I didn't. I lived. And now I live loudly, for every woman who's been told she takes up too much space." The crowd rose in silence. Not applause. Not cheers. Just the sound of 100 women standing as one. Later that night, Adrian met her in the courtyard, beneath the string lights. "I saw what you did up there," he said. Emma smiled. "I did it for me. But I hope it helped someone else too." "It helped me," he said quietly. She turned to him. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't left you back then?" she asked. "All the time," Adrian replied. "But you know what? I think we both had to break to become who we were meant to be." She nodded. And for once, the silence between them didn't ache. It healed. As she wheeled back inside, Emma caught a glimpse of her reflection in the glass door. Not broken. Not weak. Not abandoned. Just her. Whole. Real. Home. And somewhere, deep inside, she whispered to the girl who once sat alone in the dark. "You made it." Emma's story reminds us that even in our darkest hour, the will to survive, and to fight back, can change everything. She wasn't just a victim. She became a voice. So what do you think? Was justice served? Would you have found the strength Emma did? Comment 2 if this story inspired you. Comment 7 if it broke your heart. And don't forget to like and subscribe to EN True Tales for more stories like this one. The next one might just be even more unforgettable.